you may actually think like XRP is doing something just like this, exactly like this, and that means XRP is about to run lower, like what we saw here. But do you think that's going to be the case here? Do you think that has a higher odds in the market? That is why this is going to be really important and interesting. What you're observing here is the chart of silver. And it does show you that there is something happening in our economy. When you take the same perspective into the gold, you see something similar. Historically, something similar. It is showing you it's about to run higher. That is actually a huge thing to observe in gold, in silver. Then you go on to look for dollar. What the hell is it doing? And on a macro, you are like, okay, we have a channel. We are moving inside that channel. But what's the concern here? If we remember technical analysis clearly, when the price is moving inside parallel lines, that's always almost a corrective direction. So if this is the corrective direction for dollar, what is the impulsive direction? It's going to go like this. If that is true, this is the trend line which we are observing. How long it will take, I don't know, but that's a macro direction. Last time we dropped like that in dollar was here. And that was like a 40% drop in the value of dollar. It literally took almost 2,373 days. Yes, it took time, but your purchasing power depreciated on a regular basis during that era. But if you look at the time frame while that was happening and go look at what was happening in gold during that time, go look at what was happening in silver price during that time, that's a meteoric rise in the price. Now, why am I saying this? Because if these assets, which are silver and gold, they are hedged against inflation. When they act as an investment vehicle and pumps like this, there is something wrong with your fiat currency. Now, you can actually choose whichever asset you want to look at it. You can go for a different currency. You can go for a different asset. But the point here is dollar is the reserve currency right now. And it shows that the economy is going to go into water. That means the assets you are in right now, especially the crypto market, it kind of shows you like, okay, there is something happening. You need to keep your eyes focused. Because if this is true and the dollar is about to get hammered, what are we looking for, right? Crypto doesn't have that long of a time frame to look for in the history, but we do have fundamentals. When you see a project like this doing something like surprise move, I would say like, okay, the price actually moved exponentially for the asset last time. And right now, the market is down and you're getting all these positive news. So what do we think like the market is about to do this year? If you're saying it's not going to run, there are short-term reasons for that. But it does not invalidate the long-term picture guys like Credible actually gives you. And I'm surprised that he's also having somewhat a target close like 130 or, above that in this particular chart. And I'm like, wow, that looks good. Meaning for me, I was thinking like, okay, 90 to 125 is going to be a range. A lot of people are going to take profit. Because remember, we started this market cycle around $3,000. And from there, 30 and next 120 is like a huge move. So they will take profits. What's more important for us to look at this is like, okay, what would be the possible move in the market if it's about to do such a run to the upside? For XRP, when will this happen? Now, I don't think that's going to be a question of will this happen. More or less, it's going to be a question of when will this possibly come into the price action. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family. where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Before we start, happy Easter to all of you. Guys, while we look at the price action, we also have to look at the news narrative and how the market reacts. So that's why we're going to jump here looking at Matic. We need to understand one thing, that yes, this asset is up. The wave 1 was like a 16x. Then the market actually ran higher with a wave 2 of like 450x. So if we are looking for the total wave structure, it does show you like it actually ran 1000x in this market cycle. I remember being wrong about this asset, calling, okay, it's 2.3, get out. I think it's going to be the top. But then again, it went up to like 2.8. But if it's me looking at the market, I would say like, okay, this is the bottom, 0.01. When you're taking the profits out here at 2.2, 2.3, that's close to the top, right? Now, at this point, I'm looking at this asset and I'm like, okay, we have completed wave 1 and wave 2. What the hell are we looking forward to? If it's going to run higher from here, are we going to look for a major rally like this? Even though the fundamentals are like this, right? So I'm like, okay, fundamentals are increasing. Great. But is it already priced in? That's something which we all have to keep in mind. Because the asset, now remember, if it's doing another 5x from this all-time highs, that makes this asset do 5,000x in this market cycle. Because it has already reached 1000x by the all-time highs. So be realistic, right? So even though it can still go higher, make a new high, it doesn't mean that this is going to be the max opportunity zone, even though it's actually kicking Ether. Now, one of the reasons for that is Ether comparatively is like, if you have used this network, you know what I'm talking about. It's a pain, right? When you're using that network, you already understand like, that's not what you really want to get from the blockchain technology. And when you see that the market is showing you that this asset is getting interest, this asset is slowly grinding higher, that kind of shows you like, okay, assets like XRP, once we get the clarity, it's going to go parabolic because of its utility. Now, here we are looking at this asset like we discussed previously. It's breaking through this key range. Remember, this is the resistance range which we broke through. Now, a weekly close just came in. You had a bull flag pattern on the daily. You broke that one to the upside. Now you came back, you retested this range. If you remember, we had the detailed talk about the short-term price action pattern, which Ether and the altcoins were doing, right? And when we look at that right now, we kind of get a clear picture like, okay, this happens to be the clear resistance range, and now it's starting to act like a support. So for me, while I look at the market, I would say like, okay, the market actually came lower. So I wouldn't be surprised if it actually does something like this and then burst higher. So this is Ether. And I'm like, okay, that's not one of the best assets in the marketplace, but that's my opinion. Who cares? Because what we need to look for is what the market think. And that's why we are looking at the historical price action and what the market is doing right now. Because the way the market is reacting to this asset, right now, I would say like, there is something wrong. Yeah, I don't really understand, but there is something wrong because the price is actually making higher highs. And it happens to be in a channel. Remember what we just talked? It usually is negative when you do this pattern, right? And to just get a little bit more clarity, we can actually look at the RSI. And the RSI shows me like it's flat from this range. So there is something wrong, right? Unless the RSI goes back up, break this level and confirm us that, okay, we are getting a rounded bottom, we are breaking through the skies. That's okay. That's all good. That's all great. But right now, it's making a double top structure. The price is making a higher high. So that's a divergence for me. And that's on a daily. So I'm like, okay, let me go on a weekly. Let me look at what the market is about to do for this asset. And one of the important reasons we always look at Ether is that most of the altcoins kind of follow this trend. It is highly correlated with a lot of these assets. So we should not be neglecting the fact that if Ether is about to drop back, how low can this go? If it's me, again, I would look for the moving average. Here we are using a 21-day moving average on a weekly chart. Last time we came there, we touched that range and bounced. So I'm like, okay, if that's going to come down, that means the price of this asset can drop for some reason, which I really don't understand, but that can happen. Now, it can be just a week drop, go back up. Now, if it actually breaks through this level of resistance, the same thought process would be neglected because it gets invalidated as the RSI goes through. Because what we just talked about is on a daily, right? And here we are looking on the weekly for the Ether, which would be somewhat similar to that of the alt market. Now, what we are observing here on the RSI is a rising wedge. And usually for me, for some reason, I'm like, okay, this always follow the price action. So if the pattern is bearish on the price action side of this, I would actually go looking for the same. Like, okay, there is something wrong with the pattern. Say, historically, if we actually try and follow what follows after we get something like this, it is bad. But here we had enough width for the RSI to bounce in the range, drop, come back, retest. Right now, that's not the situation. So either we need to break this to the upside and go ultra bullish, or we are going to go down, correct, and then run up. Now, what does that mean for XRP as an asset? What does that mean for the entire market, right? That's what we are literally looking for. So right now, if the dollar is about to drop, gold is about to run high, silver is about to run higher, we're like, okay, this is against the USDT, and I'm looking for this particular asset, looking at the RSI, and the RSI does not actually show me like it's bad in any way, because the pattern which we saw in Ether is not the pattern which we are observing in XRP. So for some reason, I think XRP will outperform the altcoin market, or at least Ether, right? So the market actually shows here, I broke higher, I'm moving higher, I may have a short-term corrective action going into the picture, but that does not mean I'm gonna drop dead, right? So if we look at this pattern, change the color here, almost all the time when you see the price breaking through this, you come back, test that range, and then bounce back. So that's going to be a good range to look at on the weekly, but then we actually zoom in. So while we zoom in, we do understand the fact that, okay, this happens to be a trend line. We are not dropping, and I'm like, what's happening, right? It would be really healthy for the price to drop like what? Like an A, B, C pattern, put a low, and then travel back to the upside. That would look really good. But as of now, the market is kind of showing like, okay, this is the range of previous support, which turned into a resistance range. Now it's showing like, okay, I'm holding on to that level. We are reaching the moving average. While we were here, we were saying this. The price just ran away. It went way ahead of its time from the moving average. And right now, we're getting close to that. Now, while we talk about that, it is also important for us to look at this. Right, on the short-term scenario, while we zoom in, it does not actually show you like we are going up. Say the moving average is pointing you to the upside on a daily, which for me is bullish. Great. But the price action is now turning neutral. It's not bullish, it's turning neutral. That's on a daily. Then I go on a weekly. And I'm like, okay, the weekly, the moving average is still pointing you to the upside, which kind of goes in with the daily. So I'm like, okay, even though we may get a correction, we are going much higher than where we are. And if we are to correct, what is it going to be, right? There are a lot of different price structure which we'll have to look at, and 0.44 or 0.438 is going to be one of them. But that's not all of it, right? We get another range here which can be 0.46, and we know that the monthly level, which is more important than all these levels for me, I think that is one of the strongest support which we would be looking at. That is somewhere close to 0.48, 0.47, that range. So if we drop to this and then bounce back, that is going to be a massive win for XRP, because I think this pattern here, which is playing out, can most likely look like this, a short-term micro or nano three-wave structure, which actually goes and plays out like this, which would be really interesting, because if we didn't get this thing here based on the SEC case, we would have actually done 1, 2, and 3. That is something similar. Now, we always have seen that, yeah, XRP usually does not actually do this normal 1, 2, 3 structure, because when we go back in history, if we try look at the historical price action for XRP, what we usually see is that the third wave, the market goes crazy. Say, if we actually put this into picture, what we are observing here for XRP is like the wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3. Wave 2 was a monster rally. Now, yes, we got the SEC case there. Even if we say, okay, this should have been the support, considering this range of previous resistance turning into a support, that still is a massive rally compared to what we saw in wave 2. Now, go back in time, look for what XRP actually did in wave 3 here. In the last market cycle, while we look at this, we do understand the fact that, okay, the market just blew through. Wave 2 was big, but wave 3 was not small. We put in the bottom here at 0.11. We went all the way up to 0.38, which is monster rally, right? So now when we come back into the market, we cannot neglect the fact that, okay, we may come to 0.8, we may go up to 1. Oh, not 1.2, I would say 1.1. That still is a possibility. But in this short-term structure, it looks kind of weird to say that, okay, we are going to reach that range. So on a monthly, this is the nano structure we are looking at. If XRP is to bounce, what's going to be the next level of resistance? That is going to be the next target if you are conservative. Now, zoom in on XRP on the same time horizon, keeping it on a weekly, on a macro, and we are looking for the resistance. What do we need to see to say like, okay, we are going nuts? A break of 0.53 on a weekly is going to be that indicator. And around 0.6 is going to be the next major resistance. So now our duty is to go on a short-term chart and see like, okay, if we are going to correct lower, how low are we going to go, right? There would be a lot of different opinions in the market, but look for this trend line for the time being. If it's me, while looking at this range, I would say, okay, dropping back to this range is going to be really healthy. And one of the major range to keep in mind is going to be here, which happens to be like, say, a previous level of support, then turned into resistances. So I would say like, okay, if the market can drop back here and bounce back from that level, it's going to be a super healthy level and a huge buying opportunity. So if you are in the market for long run and you're looking at this and saying like, no, I don't want the price to go back down to 0.4 to just rocket from here. Yeah, that's what we all want for sure. But the market right now is playing out something different. And now, if I'm to actually talk about a different perspective, that's going to be the valuation into a different asset. So here, what we are doing is looking at XRP to the gold. Because if you're looking at the weekly, you may lose perspective. I'll highlight why. Because if we are looking at the weekly chart for the XRP here and the gold, what we are looking at right now is while the market was going up for gold, XRP was going down for most part. And by the time gold reached this range, the price bottomed for XRP and most of the crypto. You know, we did that in the March 2020. And what happened after that? Crypto started running up, gold topped out, but crypto market did continue higher. And XRP went up till gold actually bottomed. Now, if you actually look at this structure, you'll actually go for a thought process. Now, this is most important area of this video. If you think that this area, now this is important because if you don't look at it properly, you may actually think like XRP is doing something just like this, exactly like this, And that means XRP is about to run lower, like what we saw here. But do you think that's going to be the case here? Do you think that has a higher odds in the market? That is why this is going to be really important and interesting. Now, why do I think this drop may not actually come into the picture unless something really goes wrong with the project? Say, for example, if the SEC is coming out and the court is like, okay, SEC is saying we're not going to do a settlement. Court is coming out and giving the picture like, okay, this is a security, whatever you see. Whether that's true or not, the court can actually give their thought process out there. It can be wrong, but they can still give you that idea. If that happens, yeah, we are going to do that. But right now, we are not looking for that price structure. Yes, there is a lot of similarity. I agree. If you follow the price clearly, crystal clear, you are actually going to see a short-term movement here, then a run up. You're going to see something similar, a run up. Then the price consolidates with two local highs, making it look almost similar. And then you run up, make a lower high below this, right? But here you went up almost similarly. You matched that range, almost at that range. So right now, if we are here looking at that price action and then comparing it with dollar, last time when this happened, dollar was going up and dollar was correcting at this range. Right now, dollar is going up, it's still going up. Fine. And then dollar happens to, the gold happens to get accelerated movement. During that time, what we observed is that gold actually went up, consolidated there while we made this top, and then gold went up, we dropped. So the market was going through such a panic time because of the health crisis. We know that things were going wrong, and then all of a sudden the health crisis hit the market, and the market goes boom in March 2020. Gold actually went up. It did have volatility inside, but it actually went up. Now, clear all of this. That's the weekly information what the market is giving us. And I'm like, okay, fine. Is there something different? Is there something which we are missing? Is there something like new information which I can add on and try understanding here? Last time while this was happening, gold was already showing you a new trend, a higher low structure, showing you a breakout and a move higher. Great. Now, you come here during that time, XRP was showing you something different. It was the opposite. You are going lower, until a point in time where you actually made a double bottom structure. Now, it didn't happen over a day. It's a monthly chart. Remember, your first local bottom here is March 2020 and the next one is June. So you did take time. And before that, the first was in December. It can be something close to a triple bottom, but it's double bottom. We know that. Now, the trend is actually moving against you at that point in time. Right now, what's different? The new information in the market should be digested properly so that we know, okay, we are not missing anything. Right now, you had this pattern happening here. You already broke this range, putting in a new high on a monthly. And why is that important? Because last time you went against the trend on a monthly chart, making a new high. For XRP, joining the rally in gold is here. You put a higher high and a higher low during the time when gold was almost at its top. And then while gold was correcting, you were running up. Now, think it on the macro. A lot of people were taking profits from gold as it was confirming that it's putting in a top. People taking profits, moving into different assets. Some of them can be crypto, which actually got the market going up. Right now, that's not the case. You see the macro is way different. We literally see the forwards dropping. We literally see people are jumping out of US because they really think the bond market is going to be crazy. They really think your fiat currency is going to be blah, blah, blah. It's going to be bad. We get the point. Because what we are observing right now is the bank deposits are dropping. Where the hell are this money going out to? Do you think it's only going into real estate? Do you think it's only going into one asset class? I really don't think so. That's why right now, for me, I'm like, okay, gold is actually showing you this pattern. Remember, this pattern here. Showing you that, okay, I'm going for a crazy rally. And that's a monthly chart. It may take like a couple of months, but it's going to go bonkers for sure. It's actually going to run higher. And if that's happening in gold, silver and all, and XRP is joining the party showing you the same pattern on a monthly, putting in a higher high, I wouldn't actually go completely against it. Because last time when you bounce, putting in a higher high, it happens to test the moving average and slow down, come back down, test this previous range and then bounce. So if that's the case, you're right now testing that moving average. If you get slowed down and then bounce, this is exactly following the recent past. So if that is true, we are going to observe gold go higher, XRP go higher, silver go higher, dollar drop heavy. Because that's what we are observing on the macro. If we go look at any of these assets, we actually understand the pattern like, okay, silver is looking really good. It really looks, now this would be sketchy. We'll go on to a candlestick chart and it shows you like it's just there doing the wave one. It's about to start wave two. It's about to go crazy. For me, in my eyes, I think this is where we are. You did your consolidation, you went up, you're consolidating above your accumulation range. Here, this is your accumulation range. You went up, you broke through that range. Now you're consolidating here. What does that mean? Silver is about to go, whether we believe it or not, this is going to be a massive hedge if you're using it as a hedge against the currencies which you have. But I don't think the bankers are going to tell you this information because they don't want your money to be in those assets and you make money. They want you to give your money to them. They give you a little bit so that you just come back every time to them and they buy these assets for themselves. So financial education is going to be so important here because whenever you see a little bit of drop in these assets, you may get confused whether that's a buying the dip opportunity or get out of the market opportunity, right? That's going to be confusing because on the short-term narrative, remember, dollar is at a big support. If it breaks, that's like a hell is going to break loose. But it may actually bounce before it actually does that. So the level of patience and discipline you will need here is going to be sky high. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.